Allah Azza wa Jal mentions these ayat and these injunctions one after the other in this surah, some of them having to do with divorce law, others having to do with fighting in the path of Allah, spending in the path of Allah. And you find a very interesting contrast. You find Allah Azza wa Jal talking to two groups of people. One group of people that's refusing to accept Islam, and another group of people who have accepted Islam on the outside but have walked away on Islam from the inside, the munafiqun. And there are different kinds of hypocrites. There are those who never really believed to begin with, and it was a fasad to begin with. وَقَدْ دَخَلُوا بِالْكُفْرِ وَهُمْ قَدْ خَرَجُوا بِهِ. Right? They never had it to begin with. On the other hand, there are those who may have come with goodwill. They actually thought Islam had something good to offer, and they accepted it, thinking that it is the truth, it's convincing, and it's a beautiful thing. But when it came to its instructions and its injunctions and its demands, they said, I love Islam, but this is getting a little too much. This is a lot to ask of a person. They were not like a lot of these people that came into Islam. A good number of them were not like the Sahaba of Mecca. You know, when you come into Islam in Mecca, it's not a bed of roses to begin with. They already know, if I become a Muslim now, well, all the Muslims I know are being cursed at, tortured, beaten up, made fun of. They're getting kicked out from their families' homes. So if I join these people, then I guess that's coming in my future too. There's no added advantages in becoming Muslim in the worldly sense. Not in Mecca anyway. When the Prophet ﷺ migrates to Medina, the Muslims are, to begin with, a strong community, significantly stronger than they were in Mecca. And now if you become a Muslim, the challenges are not the same as the challenges that were in Mecca. If you become a Muslim in Medina, that is. They're not the same. And so a lot of times people would jump into Islam not realizing the consequences. What are they getting themselves into? This deen is not an easy thing. It's not something that you can take casually. It really is a change of course for your entire life. So Allah Azza wa Jal in these ayat talks specifically, there's an entire passage dedicated to a discussion for the munafiqun, for the hypocrites. And the hypocrites would walk away from Islam in two ways, and this is important. One is obviously leaving Islam altogether, ridda. Outright you become Muslim and everybody knows you're no longer Muslim. You become a kafir again. But there's another form of turning away from deen. And that is that on the outside you say that you still profess to be from the Muslims, because that has social consequences if you walk away from Islam outright, and that has social consequences, but for all practical purposes, and on the inside, there's nothing left. There's really nothing left. And when especially now you've become a person of picking and choosing what do you take from the deen and what you don't take from the deen. And this is one of the central messages of this surah. That you're not in a position to negotiate what it is from this deen that you accept, and what it is from this deen that you don't accept, or that you don't find comfortable, so you're not going to necessarily take it. This is one of the central ideas communicated in this deen. Just recently, actually yesterday over the internet, I was talking to a youth group in DC. And a question came up in the discussion. There was this young sister who asked the question, I love everything about Islam except hijab. And it seems like hijab is there to protect men from looking at us. So, I don't really see the point in it. And instead of arguing of the social benefits of hijab or what hijab does to honor women and all of that stuff, that's actually already going in the wrong direction, that conversation. We need to take a step back and ask a more fundamental question. Let's take a step back and let's ask Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam loves Islam too. But then Allah makes a tiny little request. How about you go in the middle of the desert and leave your family there? Right? He's not one that's going to say, I love everything about Islam, but this whole leaving my family in the middle to die thing, I don't know. I'm not that comfortable with that. And after he's done with that, you know what? Why don't you jump into a fire? I love everything about Islam.